Clerk, please do the roll call.
Johnson. Alderman Fairwell.
Here.
Alderman Frida. Alderman Montoya. Alderman King. Alderman Carr. Here. Alderman Ross.
Here. All right.
Order.
Report of the meeting. Taking the journal proceedings, we have a motion to approve the minutes from the committee of the whole meeting on November 9th, 2022. Is there a motion? Alderman Fairwell, second by Alderman Roll on the question. Clerk, please do the roll.
Alderman Fairwell.
Aye.
Alderman Montoya. Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Ross.
Aye.
Here.
Motion carries. Any public comments? Public comments? Mayor reports. So an ordinance, City of Blue Island, County, Illinois, granting a variance regarding yard setbacks and decks located at 13015 South Wood Street. It's a multi-unit building. One of their decks fell on the one below it, and the one below that. So then the city deemed it uninhabitable about a year ago. And since then, they've gone through a bunch of steps and loops, and they're going to rebuild it the code. I believe already passed planning and zoning. Do you have any questions, Howard? Not, it'll be on the next agenda. All right, next one we have for also with Howard. An ordinance for the City of Blue County, Illinois, granting a fence variance located at 2309 West 123rd Street. Again, this is a side yard situation. Is there any comments with Howard? Alderman?
So Howard, your staff report as usual is irrefutable and good. We're still looking at the lovely white plastic fences and what's going to sure it's going to be used. Is it going to be a white plastic fence?
No, it's gonna be a khaki colored, fence.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just not white, it's a khaki color, she wanted something that was subdued.
Yeah.
She's gonna push it back 3 feet,
Okay.
she's gonna do little shrubs. She's also doing the corner side triangle.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Good. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. That's great progress. Appreciate that very much. Tomorrow, FYI to everybody, I have this issue kind of came to my attention initially because the resident I thought had purchased, maybe she was able to work out something, a white plastic fence, one of the privacy fences. We recently had this happen again in my ward, and I am interested in finding a way that maybe we can, put some controls on the types of material that are used in highly visible fences. And we are going to have a meeting tomorrow at City Hall, I believe, at 4 o'clock on the subject. But I think this seems to resolve well. So
And I want to piggyback, I can't think of another moment with my staff holiday party at work, but I talked to Howard briefly, talked again about and the same thing. If we're going to do something like that, so we brought up time and time again to historic preservation, and nothing's ever gone through, whereas a color palette situation.
Yeah.
Would be very vague. We have nothing on the books right now.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Howard? Thank you, Howard.
Thank you.
Next, moving on with the garbage ordinance. No, Alderman Roll have a presentation on this. Start us off and then any questions.
Okay. Did you want to do the preamble or?
No, I can talk after else.
Okay.
You can leave them off the rest of the night.
All right, so just as a quick recap, as we go into our new contract, for a number of reasons, prices across the board are going to go up. There's inflation, there's the fact we did not raise prices last year, and we've broadened the number of services that Lakeshore is providing, namely that they're going to do majority of the bulk pickup. The city currently adds a surcharge to the bill that we give our residents. That surcharge is meant to offset public works operations for waste removal. So what this is my proposed rate schedule. Let me see if I can get that little window. Sorry, can't see 2027. But what I have here is this is a proposed rate schedule. The emphasis here was on primarily trying to blunt the single largest year-over-year increase that our residents would face under the new contract. And to do that, I basically changed the surcharge rates that the city applies. And it's a projection. This looks forward. We can tinker with it here, but just before we get into that, I just want to at least sort of give you what I put together, at least as a starting point. So yeah, it seeks to try and flatten the curve that our residents will face with the cost increase, while also recognizing that the city will still continue to engage in some bulk pickup. So what this does is essentially gradually reduces the amount that we collect. In the first year, it'd be about just short of half of what we currently collect, to give the city time to adjust and maybe institute a new system like a ticketing system. And then from there, it drops down to about 70,000 a year is what the city would collect to offset its ongoing operation. So this is the rate schedule. We can mess with it right here in real time, and this will update. I believe I know the administration perhaps has a preference on some of these dollar targets that are different than what I put together. And then over here on the left, these are all the details sort of behind it. This just breaks down what Lakeshore is charging, what we can expect it to increase year over year with CPI, what our proposed surcharge is, and then what the total we would collect each year. So that's basically the budget offset. And that's what's in those boxes. As you go from top to bottom, you go from current state down to future years. And so again, as we talk about this tonight, I can change these surcharge rates. It'll update in real time. But this is my proposal. Again, the two main objectives are limiting sticker shock to the residents, while still giving the city a reasonable budget to work with for offsetting any continued operation. The last point I'll make is, this is all fungible. It does not limit our operations, right? If for some reason this is grossly inaccurate, in the next year's appropriation, we can always adjust this as we see fit. It's not like the surcharge is our only budget for public works waste operations. It's just meant as an offset. Any questions for me? I know Tom wanted to weigh in, but any questions on what I just covered so far? If anybody wants to see the rates again. They're expressed as a range because we know year over year LRS rates will go up between 3% and 6%, depending on the CPI.
Josh, could you read out some of this? I just can't read it. So some of the basic, maybe just give us an illustration of the basic numbers that you're talking about.
Sure. So up at the top, those are the senior rates. The city does not currently add a surcharge to senior rates, so it's sort of the hardest to change. The way I've done this, we actually would be subsidizing senior rates for the first 3 years to try and again minimize that sticker shock. If we just passed on just the straight up cost type from LRS, it would be a big year over year difference for them. But seniors as a percentage would see the sort of largest increase, but again, that's as a percentage. Currently they're at $17.95. Under this proposal, it would go up to $18.60 next year. And then at 2027, the absolute highest it would be is $27.90. This model gives single family homes, which are the largest number of units in the city by far, the largest break. This actually basically cuts the surcharge heavily against single family homes. They would actually see a modest price decrease. So under this model, single family homes would still be paying pretty close to the rate they are now in 2027.
And what is the rate now and what is the rate next year?
So currently for single family homes, the rate is $29.30. Next year, it would actually go down to $27.10. And then from there, it climbs, actually continues to go down, sorry, under this model before it. continue to climb at 2026, that's just due to inflation. And then two flats currently are $44.97. This model puts it up to $50.20 for next year. It's an 11% increase, more than that. That would actually decline the following year for 2024, or stay flat. Again, from there it varies, right? We don't know if the LRS rate is going to go up between 3 and 6%.
And you, what would be then next year, the net revenue that would be available to Public Works to engage in bulk pickup?
Currently, it would be $205,512. Again, though, that's not their budget. That would just be a deep rail, right? I mean, it's up to Public Works. How much they want
That's
to
what we'll
pursue
be
this.
collecting for that purpose
Correct,
next year.
yes.
Okay.
Alderman, do you figure in the, for lack of a better word, spillage? We don't collect.
I'm sorry?
Did you, in these figures, look into the spillage, what we don't collect, the amount we don't collect?
No, on principle, the prospect of what we do or do not bill our residents based on what we may or may not collect seems inappropriate. I don't think we can model in what we expect to not collect as where we set our surcharge rates.
What revenue are we collecting this year?
This year, we're on track to collect about $530,000. That's actually in excess of nearly $70,000 more than what we figure we spend annually.
And do we know what we're actually spending out of that, or we are not?
Roughly $460,000.
Is what's being spent to do bulk pickups this year?
Yes,
Okay.
including hauling away the roll-offs, labor,
all
fuel, all that. Yeah.
To me, it sounds like it's in the neighborhood of reasonable.
And again, we can adjust, right? This is not setting our budget. This is just our best stab at what is reasonable to defray and what is reasonable to pass on to our residents.
Kind of related, and I guess we'll probably get into this, get down to the language is, the definition in here about what is bulk and what we will and won't pick up. So that would have an impact on it also. We just, the raw numbers you're talking about, like I say, it seems like something like reasonable.
Just to be clear, I'm not for or against, there will be less revenue for the city, not to pass on the surcharge. Which I'm not for or against, it's less revenue for the city.
I'm sorry, maybe not to pass on the surcharge.
So currently, we charge a certain amount.
Right.
Above the old rates.
Right.
Obviously, the rate has gone up substantially from the old rates. We're actually lowering the difference between the rates and what the city charges going forward.
Right, and I understand that, but it just seems like, so if we're collecting 530 this year and we're actually spending 460. And presumably our expenditures should go down.
Should.
Something should, something like where he's running with this down to 205 seems like maybe it's too aggressive or maybe it's not, but it seems like that's the direction I would think would go in.
No, I'm curious, great. I like the idea, and it all stems on my enforcement, right, as the mayor of the process. It's going to be a cold turkey process, is what I'm pushing right now. As soon as the newsletter hits and social media and everything, we're going to stop. And we have to readjust.
Yeah.
Garbage just fine.
Right.
But I want to stop this one as possible because it's 4 dumpsters a day right now on this.
Yeah, no, I'm all of it.
And I'm speaking very frank, Chris. It's a concern because the amount of garbage that he does is a lot.
And while I'm hesitant to see us lose revenue, the spirit of this law, which established the surcharge, is specifically to offset city's operation in waste management. So in light of the fact that our role there is decreasing, I feel that the onus on the residents should decrease with it. And again, it's not great to lose revenue, but this just seems like a fair approach.
Any other questions from administration? Mark, Tom?
I'll just offer up a little bit of commentary from the administrative standpoint, Tom, the city administrator. First, I want to thank Alderman Roll for for his great work here and for putting the time and utilizing his training to create the model. I have said multiple times, local government works best when the elected officials bring their own skill to the table. And so having the ability to do some more advanced modeling on this is very helpful to the administration. This is a complicated issue. It's probably the most complicated issue that we've dealt with, and certainly our time here. There's a lot of moving parts to it. As we saw with the garbage contract, that was a little more concrete in its numbers, but that was complicated in its own right. This is more so because this is entirely in our control. I think we would just, from an administrative request, that we continue to work on this final ordinance between now and January when we bring this for a vote. Is our hope would be that we set rates at as best we can, and the best we can estimate to where our waste management operation within the city is not operating in any deficit. Right? We can figure it out when we talk about surpluses, and then we talk about the needs of the Public Works Department. No surplus we're going to generate out of this, so we're going to fully fulfill the needs we have in the Public Works Department. Right. So we always know that the revenue is not excess, right? It is necessary. I think our biggest concern from an administrative standpoint, Mike Schroeder is our Public Works Supervisor and daughter from college tonight, so I wasn't able to be here, but I did have a very long conversation with him. I had several, but I had another one today. I guess our main point of concern right now, where we're at, and as we move forward, is just how fast we can off-ramp our bulk responsibilities, right? Because as we know, and we talked about at length, we have a culture issue in town, right? Because we have a culture issue with people outside of town who know that we have a culture issue in town. But at the height of summer, we're moving 8, 9, 10 dumpsters a day at what is it, Mark, 250 to 300 a pop? 375 a pop, right? So that's just a lot of money and effort. Now we have had a lot of conversations about the public works work effort that goes with that, the labor, the actual hours, right? But the money side of it is real, and like I said, we want to do our best to not operate this as a deficit for very long or at all. Now, to do that, we have to hit a moving target, right? Because we're trying to take effort to bring the bulk down. But when this newsletter hits, you see, we're still going to be responsible for enough bulk that Public Works is still going to be requiring man hours, fuel, etc. The goal is to have that be less over time. But then there's an aggressive enforcement, or aggressive enforcement, I should say, that has to go along with that. And we do believe we can hit the goals that we're hoping to hit here. But the concern, just to be very frank about it on the way in, is how fast we can get down. And Alderman, I might be wrong, but I think we're anticipating or trying to project for something like a 25% decrease in.
No, the first year gives you about 50%. And that's all up, right? So if the first half of the year is 75%, you just got to end below 50% to average out 50% of the year. But again, if we go slightly over, not the end of the world. And if we find we're way off next year, you can alter course as we see fit.
Right. So those are just kind of the concerns from the administrative standpoint, is that recognizing fully that we're trying to do a difficult task here, like I said, trying to hit a moving target. So that is but I guess to try to put a bow tie on it. Our request would be that when we get to the final vote here, that our hope is that as we sand down the edges, as it were, that we can land a number that it balances our responsibility to the Public Works Department versus and our responsibility to the residents to not charge them any more than necessary.
Is there a date that we can put into effect? We just let it ride forever, right?
No one day will operate in the deficit most likely until we make a substantive ordinance change, right? Talk about that with the county, and they're prepared for that. We're not talking about hair on fire, sky's falling stuff here, but with every passing month, we will be operating.
If I'm not mistaken, right now we're operating.
Yeah, right now.
Right now.
Yeah. 38,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's
So
a very tight margin.
So with these passing months, they'll be leakage.
And just to be clear, I know Alderman Roll is very aware of this. We have raised it. Our administration has raised it on that. So this will be the first heavy lift. That's why I'm trying to stay neutral on this, because as mayor, I want to make sure the city functions financially sound. As a constituent, resident, I want not to be hit as So it's a fine line with the fund. So that's why it goes to enforcement. Whatever the council decides, whatever happens, it comes down to me and my administration that how we're going to roll out the enforcement.
And I would just say that if there's a theme here, it's one that we've dealt with a lot. We are trying to untangle and unpack many years of ingrained behavior activities. Lack of attention to the problem, just don't worry about it this year. We don't want to offend so-and-so or say other stuff. So this is us trying to be what I think this council, this administration have been on when we are our best face forward, which is, let's call this what it is. Let's get it right now. Because it will, and I would 100% adjust as we need to go, but I think foundationally, this ordinance is important in terms of us trying to get this right, and knowing that there will always be adjustments as we move on. So yeah, again, I think Alderman has done some really good work here. I think we're our state is set here to where we can work towards finalizing a final ordinance, through the holidays and whatever, we have the first date of the first meeting in January. I think.
Could you send this file to us?
I can, yeah, and again, the way it's designed is right here. Basically, you can forecast by the surcharge rates, which you can express either as a percentage or a whole dollar amount. So you can change them and it'll update everything so you can see what the outcome will be. But I can send this to whoever would like a
Thank
copy.
you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Discussion of fire alarm and fire inspection ordinances.
So the fire department is looking to essentially set a schedule for our fire prevention, plan review and inspections here. I think at some point we were planning on doing this when we got the Bridger program, but fee schedule never made. So that's essentially what we're doing. We pretty much mimicked what also is doing. These are a little bit lower than probably would like to do moving forward. So appreciate your patience before, but they might go up eventually, but this low should start us off. So do you guys have any questions? We for yearly inspections, new buildings, plan reviews, anything that would the Fire Prevention Bureau would see.
We recently updated what would be our ambulance pricing.
Yeah.
So we're just adding on to that, trying to put everything in one place and, bring the city up to date with what we're charging for all of our fires.
Questions for the chief?
Moving
Thanks,
on
have a Merry Christmas.
to health inspection ordinance. Talking about this.
I like
Yeah.
very similar, we provide health inspections and we don't charge for them at all. There's no fees. So, when we noticed that, we found, a few examples that provided one in your packet of it in our both communities. So what we would propose would be something similar to that one. And we do pay our health inspector, those are just better.
Any questions?
This is the schedule we're talking about.
It's the comparable one, so yeah, I mean, it would be something very similar to that.
All right, moving on to the mayor's announcements. Couple things. I also want to thank the Christmas Light Parade committee for everything they've done. And I do agree with the Alderman's comments from yesterday. That's probably the best we've ever seen. Definitely a lot more participation since I've had to be inside of it, at least from the crowds, but a lot more participants in the parade. Not to mention in the parade, actually watching the parade, a lot of people. I didn't see any break where you can see past the line of people along the street, pretty much the entire route. So that's showed a lot, even with it being so cold out. Today I attended a meeting right before I came here in the village of Robbins, along with mayors of Harvey, Dixmoor, Allison, Posen. But Congressman Rush invited a bunch of mayors down to have a meeting about water infrastructure, with water breaks in Robbins and Dixmoor's issues. And I wanted to make sure I was there to talk about Island's got water breaks too, just because we're fortunate to be bigger and have our own in-house crew. We don't usually end up in the media, but we're all aging. We're all over 100 years old individually. I was the oldest one at the table and also the largest town. So we made a push and a plea. They had the federal EPA delegate from Washington fly into the meeting, and they had the local IEPA. They had Deborah Shore, who used to be MWRD, we're familiar with. She is also at the EPA now, come to the meeting. And I have a relationship with her. Basically, we all need some money to fix our infrastructure. It's a silent, unseen thing until you don't have water coming through your faucet. So, channel 2579 and I think 32 were there. I didn't know I was gonna be on camera, so I forgive if I didn't say the right thing or whatever, but Blue Island was definitely there, one of 5 towns. And they're forming, South Suburban Water caucus, if you will, to push for more grant money for our area. And another common denominator, every single town touches us as part of this. So, there might be coming, there's other meetings set for February, but it was a lot more media came to it than I thought. So I'm glad I went, and Blue Island was well represented. Hopefully we get something out of it. That being said, I'll do a short recap of this year since it's our last meeting of the year. So 2022 brought a lot of positive changes to the city. We began the first comprehensive street repair program in Blue Island. Decades, at least anybody's collective memory. Our pilot program, Repave Alleys, I believe was a success, and I want to expand that for next year. We continue to rebuild our city staff and improve our frontline services. From codifying ordinances to improving code enforcement and sticker enforcement, we have reformed and improved our internal processes, including some ordinances on the agenda tonight. We support our police, fire, public works departments with better equipment and better processes, and negotiating simultaneously 3 contracts that we did in a relatively decent amount of time compared to my memory of how it's called. We welcome new businesses and revive closed storefronts. And I say there's full understanding that our work is just beginning. As we move into the new year, I'm excited about the potential of our city. I want to once again sincerely thank the City Council and the staff, as well as many volunteers that serve on various appointed boards and commissions for the work we've done this year and the future. And have a great holiday season, and there's a lot more work to do next year. So thank you. City Clerk.
I just want to remind everybody that Santa Claus will be at York and Western on Friday night from 6 to 8. And the reindeers will be there on Saturday from 4 to 6. So come on out and see Santa and the reindeers. The New Year's Eve drop, keep watching for details. It has changed. We are going to move it to York and Western across from the Lyric. I also gave you a flyer for Iverson's. Iverson was taking orders for the holidays up until I think the 20th. So if you would like to order for Iverson, put your orders in. And that's all I have. Have a Merry Christmas and holidays.
Thank you. City Attorney? City Administrator, anything else?
On the seasonal compliance note, so Alderman, a couple things. One, I know we've had some hiccups in email communications as of late. I'm talking with IT about correcting those, getting our listservs updated, and just trying to troubleshoot. So I know we've had a few hiccups, but we are working on it. And with that in mind, the Alderman are already getting an email from Commander Sepisi. It is a very simple but mandatory sexual harassment training compliance. As Alderman, you're employees of the city, and you interact with other employees of the city, so you follow the same compliance guidelines as everybody. So yeah, very simple. You have to read through pages of material, relatively common sense, but we're all held to the same standard. And then we would just ask that you sign the acknowledgement that you read through the material and turn it into marker copy. And just with that, on behalf of the entire city staff, thank you all in the council and the elected officials for what you do, and happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman, announcements, comments, questions?
Thank you for the lovely gifts.
And switch it up this year from candy and chocolate to candy and cutting board.
All right. I didn't have one. I've been behind the times. I didn't have one of those, so.
I have a mutual friend that's Blue Island Connection in Galena, and I said, hey, they make tables and dining room tables. I said, can you make me some cutting boards? So staff will also be getting these 2 partnerships.
Thank you.
We can blow the secrets.
Put it down over again. I'll put match. All right, any other alderman? Now we do a brief executive, I mean brief. So we need a motion to do an executive. Motion for Alderman Fairwell, second Alderman Roll. All in favor, say aye. To reopen. Alderman Fairwell, second by Alderman Roll. Executive discuss, employment separation. agreements. That was it. A motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Fairwell, second by Alderman Roll.